Welcome to Cellbase. This is the first in-depth journey we're going to be taking with John, Pastor John from New Vision Elim. And one of the things we feel that is quite useful is when pastors take the time during the midweek to actually take us a little bit deeper into the Word. John.
Mm, it is. Right. Now, I'm going to look at three words. You wanted to go deeper. In the beginning is what I'm going to look at. Or maybe four. In the beginning, God. Um, because it's not quite as it's portrayed once you get into the Greek, the Jewish language, especially
What
with
is the
the
Jewish
old.
language?
What's the Jewish language? It's the language
Yes.
the Jews speak.
Right.
Sorry. Yeah, it's Hebrew, which comes from um, Canaanites. Really, it's the one of the first languages that was on the planet written down, and one of the oldest ones. And of course, it's to do with the Word as well, the Word of God, which is Christ, and the written Word has some wonderful, wonderful things in it. So I'll begin. The first three words of the Torah are Bereshit Bara Elohim. That's our first, that's four words for in us in English. Um, and it's translated in the King James Version of the Bible and in most other translations as well. So I'm not just picking on King James. On the whole, it is not a bad way of putting it into English. However, the translation fails to convey a stunning fact that's related to the Hebrew grammar and the Torah. The very first verse in the Bible, the very first word, and the very first letter contains what may be called a grammatical mistake. Right? So we has a mistake because of the
In the
way we
Bible.
translate it. Now, it can't be a mistake if it's the word of God. And I will explain all of this because about 1,000 years ago, a commentator called Rabbi Shemola, just known as Rashi, observed that the word Bereshit cannot be explained grammatically in the verse. You know, when you write a sentence and something's out and doesn't fit, the very first word, ba, does not actually fit. That's an odd, and it's a really odd way of starting off a complete the book of the Bible. Now, the vowel called shava is under the letter. I don't know if you've seen the way the Jews write their vowels. They actually appear under the letters because at one time there's no vowels at all. It's like Yahivohi, the name for God, YH. There's no vowels, and they were put in later. So, but the vowels in this one contains what the way that it's written is means that the word is in a construct state. It's not finished. This is a form of a noun that is the first part of a noun-noun pair. We have them in English. but you can't, in Hebrew, it doesn't happen. You can't have a noun. It's grammatically incorrect. We do have them, like in doorknob, house builder, dining room. You've got two nouns together. But in Hebrew, grammatically, this becomes the first part of one of those, and you can't do that. Right. So, because the word Bereshit in this construct state, it should be translated as in the beginning of, more than in the beginning, God created, in the beginning of being created, or in the beginning of creation, or when God started to create. It's not a definite, but it's something that's still living. Rashi pointed out that every other place in the Bible that contain the word Bereshit, there are four more of them. The word clearly has this meaning. For example, in Jeremiah 26:1, Bereshit Malachak Yoiakim, in the beginning of the kingdom of Joachim. The form of the word Bereshit can only mean in the beginning of. Right? So when we translate it in the beginning, it's not quite right. It's in the beginning of, but what's it in the beginning of? If you see what I mean. You can't leave it there. You know, as it said in that one, in the beginning of. The form of the word Bereshit is in the beginning of. The problem, the grammatic thing is that it's the next word is bara. So that's the first word, Bereshit, means in the beginning of, but in the beginning of what? And the second word explains it. And the second word is, the next word is bara, a verb that means he created. So in the beginning of, he created. So there's actually quite a lot more meaning. Obviously, it's not going to work to translate into English because it didn't make any sense really in English. So they left it as it was. How do we understand then the first three words of the Hebrew Bible? Why does the Bible begin with a phrase that is such an untranslatable, ungrammatical mess, basically? Obviously, it's not a mistake. You know, the usual grammar of the first word in the Bible must have some intentional significance. Yeah? When did God create the world? It was in the beginning of God created the world. It actually makes no grammatical sense even in Hebrew. The world was created, but this is the interesting thing. Because of the way the word is, I've forgotten where it is now, that it is not finished. It doesn't make any grammatical sense, and it doesn't make any temporal sense in time because of the way they've used the wording. The difference between the two little dots and a T shape under the bet is the difference between the Torah telling a conventional story and a Torah that tells us a story that exists out of time, yet within all time. Bereshit Bara Elohim. In the beginning of the beginning, that is always beginning. God created the creation that is still creating, is the full meaning. What it's telling us is that when God started to create, but it also tells us that God hasn't finished. The creation is still ongoing. So I think sometimes we look at it as God created the heavens and the earth, full stop. That's it. But what if it's ongoing? What if natural selection is just an ongoing process of what God set in motion? What if that is so, in the beginning, Bereshit Bara Elohim, that is so profound that within translations we have missed the glory of it all, really. When God started to create, that it hasn't actually finished. That's why the word Bereshit is out of time and out of context, because it hasn't finished. It runs through the whole of the Bible. God may have rested on the seventh day, but creation didn't. It carried on. Is that in depth enough?
Gail's smiling, folks. I think it is fascinating, it's particularly the language side of the Bible. We think about the Greek, we think about the Hebrew, and we think about Aramaic as the languages of the Bible. And the Torah are obviously the first few books of the Bible that were written well before the New Testament.
Oh yeah, Moses wrote them, the Torah.
Yeah. And so Moses would have understood the Bereshit.
He would have, yes. You see, it's a lot of things that happen that we take for granted, um, or we read into the Bible because we don't have the background of Jewish culture.
The exegesis, which is
Yeah,
another big word.
because he spoke to the Jews in a way that they understood. If I said to you, um, what would you understand? The Lord's my shepherd. You would instantly go through the rest of the psalm in your head. So when he said on the cross, it's Father, forgive them, they don't know what they're doing, or you know, some of the other things he said, it wasn't the fullness of it. It was cultural as well. And I think we need sometimes to get into this. Um, it's like the Passover, yeah.
Yep.
The lamb was chosen on the 10th, right, and was loved and brought into the house and became part of the family, and then was slaughtered at 3 o'clock on Nisan 14th, ready for the evening meal. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
no big problem. Jesus went into Jerusalem on the 10th. The lamb went home on the 10th to all the people and was slaughtered at 3 o'clock. He died. So there's such a lot within the Bible that unless we get hold of the culture, we miss.
So where is it the Passover in the Bible that we find the reference to the 10th?
No, it's yes, he says God said to take the lamb
Yeah.
on the
So
10th
whereabouts in the Bible will we find that
in
information?
Exodus.
In Exodus. And Exodus we
Yes.
actually find in the Torah,
Yeah.
which is in the
Uh,
Old Testament.
yes, I think it's either chapter 11 or 12 or
Right.
over the two.
So we can see that connection to that, and then we can look in the Acts of the Apostles to see some of the other aspects that would interconnect. We can see the period of time of Palm Sunday where Jesus goes to Jerusalem. Now, is that the 10th that we reflect?
That is the 10th. That
Yeah,
that is where he was accepted as the sacrifice, which is
right.
what happened on the 10th, nice and 10th.
Okay.
Um, after,
So,
for a couple of thousand years, you would choose the lamb without blemish on the 10th, and then slaughter it on the 14th at 3 o'clock.
so this is all interconnected as Jesus being the Lamb,
Yeah.
and that we reflect on from the both Old Testament and the New Testament.
Yes, but I mean, it becomes more significant. The shepherds that went to when he was born,
Yeah.
yeah, weren't just random shepherds in the fields. There was a where is it? Each temple had sacrifices, but each temple also had shepherds that looked after the sheep ready for the sacrifice. And the perfect sheep that they used to have, they would tie a swaddling cloth around its neck to distinguish it from the rest
Ooh.
of the sheep.
Ooh. Now, where do we find a reference to the swaddling cloth?
The swaddling cloth, yes, is
Yeah,
what Jesus was wrapped in
when he was a baby.
when he was a
So
baby.
yeah, that's superb. Real clear information. So if we want to know more, are we going to be having these regular video clips that will be occurring and available on YouTube and social media account, etc.?
Yes, yeah. I mean, if anybody's got any questions, if they just bang them across, I'll do my best um, to answer them fully. I mean, there's lots of little things that are absolutely amazing that we miss out on.
Okay, that's going to be fantastic. If there's any subjects that people would like some explanation on, as you've explained this evening, can they message through to actually put those questions in and we could do videos from that, couldn't we?
Yeah, we can. Yeah,
Excellent.
yeah. I mean,
Dale, sorry, have you
what
got
one of
any?
the most
Because I'm firing away questions like there's no tomorrow.
I wasn't sure who was speaking. Yeah, there's a lot around the nativity that needs to be explored. There's a lot we can really delve into about the creation of the world, the importance of everything, Noah. Yeah, so many pockets of information that are missed from the Sunday school stories that have real life applications and relevance to today. So,
yeah,
yeah, come with us and join us on this journey.
yeah. I'll leave you with one other amazing fact when we talk about cloth. Um, when Jesus rose from the dead, they found the cloth by the side of it all and folded up. Yeah, and the napkin that mentions was folded. Now, to us, that has no significance. It's a folded napkin. But if you go back into the Jewish way of life, if your master was having a meal and he got up to leave for any reason, but hadn't finished his meal and would be back, he would fold the napkin and put it on his plate. If he'd finished his meal and leaving completely, he would throw it to one side, all scrunched up. So the very fact that Christ folded his napkin indicated to those that found the tomb that he was coming back.
Bless you, John. That has been so, so informative, and we look forward to next week's episode of a bit more in depth.